The best thing about living life like me is that you don't have to explain yourself to anyone. No one can tell me shit. Tomorrow I could disappear to Uruguay and never be seen again. I can do those things. And I might. And it's not because I actually will. And of course, I'll tell my close friends and family. But that is just to illustrate the uncertainty of life in general, but especially of mine. Because see, life isn't promised, right? Nothing is promised in life. Except for this very moment that you have right now. And that goes for everyone. But if we're honest, then most people's lives are very predictable. They might not be certain, but they're certainly predictable. So, in some way, it is certain. You just don't know when it's gonna end. And you might say like, "Oh, but you never know how it goes." Yeah, you might get sick, okay? That's about the most unpredictable factor in most people's lives. Is death and illness. Besides that, every single thing of it is basically spelled out. It's clear from the get-go, okay? You can almost certainly know where people are going to be, what they're going to be doing, how much money they're going to be making, what kind of car they're going to be driving, who they're going to be hanging around with, the kind of risks they're going to be taking. And it's not because it's, the reason for that is simply because people just don't do that much, okay? So, by extension, it's pretty predictable. If I'm going to bed tonight, then you can predict what I'm going to be doing for the coming 8 hours, which is probably just going to be sleeping, right? So if I'm not going to be doing much, then I'm going to be very predictable. And that's basically the reason why people are predictable, because they don't do anything, okay? Yeah, they do something. The same fucking thing every day. So anyway. The reason why I'm saying all this is because sometimes I give my time and attention to people, without the required price. And I don't expect anything in return in an instant or directly, But after a certain amount of time, you start realizing, wait a minute. What am I getting in return for all this effort? For all this niceness of mine, For my presence. Besides the, what's the word? Gratification of that moment, I suppose. Besides the happiness that I get from it in the short term, what do I really get from it in the long term? You know? And what I mean by that is that, for example, if you invest time into a friendship, there is a long-term benefit of that, right? Because that friend will reach out to you, check up on you, willing to do you favors, even though you don't show up anymore, maybe, you know? Even though something has happened to you. You get in an accident, you call your friend, he's there for you. Because of that friendship, because of that rapport that you built with him. But that benefit, like I'm describing right now, that benefit is it's not easy to find in relationships, okay? In a lot of relationships, let me just close a few windows here because my thing starts zooming again, which makes me angry. So, hold up, just a sec. Interrupting the whole flow, huh? That should do the trick. So, why I'm saying this is because, yeah, like I said, there's a lot of interactions and moments that you are present in certain situations where this long-term benefit is not being a seed for this long-term benefit is not being planted, right? So every conversation I have with a good friend of mine is rapport that we're building, right? And we know that we're going to be there for each other, no matter what. And this certainty is simply just not there with kind of any other interaction. So what's really the reason to invest, right? If you want to, I know this is all very mathematical, but if you want to invest, if you invest, you expect a return, okay? This is simply just human nature. And you could say, oh, but that's very transactional. Don't look at everything like transactional. And I will say that, yes, you have to. Of course, not every moment, okay? Sometimes you're just nice, and your niceness is priceless. It doesn't have a price tag always, right? It's just free. But think about it. If you're like that all the time, think about this. My attention and time is free. Are you going to respect me? No. Are you thinking like, wow, that's such a desirable mindset? That's admirable. You want to be like that? No, you don't want to be like that. So yes, if you really break it down, everything's transactional, okay? You might say, oh, but this, but like a fucking, Faggot. Faggot. You might sit there like a fucking faggot and say, yeah, but bro, just stop thinking about. Okay, buddy. I bet you're, never mind. We're not going to argue against this thing, but everyone understands that what I'm saying is just true, okay? Most things are simply transactional, okay? That's why you spend most of your fucking life at a job. You give your time, you receive money. So most of fucking life is transactional, okay? That settles the whole thing. And that's coming from someone without a job, okay? So yeah, anyway. Sometimes when you say something, you envision an imaginary person like arguing against you. And that's what just happened in my mind. So I had to debunk him, okay? Which is kind of weird because, sometimes when you're talking to someone, you realize that you're not talking to them. Well, you're talking to them in a practical sense, but on a different level, if you zoom out, you're both just people who have collected all these opinions from other people. So you're both talking to other people, if you know what I mean. For example, my ideas, well, it happens to be that I have a lot of original thought. But even my ideas, like the difference well, wait, I've got a bunch of things here. The first things first. Most people just collect a bunch of opinions from others. So you're basically talking to a collection of other people, okay? Think about that. You're talking to the hive mind. You're not talking to this one person. You're talking to the hive mind, the collective conscious, the general consensus, right? So, but with me, and I'm not saying like I'm all that different, okay? I'm still, like everyone is an NPC to some degree. But here's the difference. I collect just as much data as everyone else. But the difference with me is that I don't just repeat what I agree with. I will take what I agree with, remember it. Sometimes I'll repeat it if I think that is the end of it, the end of that topic. But usually what I'll try is I'll try to derive other conclusions of my own, based of the things that I have collected. You see what I mean? So let's just say that an opinion is a color. I collect a bunch of colors, but then what I do is I say, you know what, this color red, and this color white over here. Let me try to see if I mix them. Can I make a new color? Right? You see the difference? A lot of people just collect the opinions, say, okay, red, white, that's it. Because they don't really have the intelligence to expand upon what they believe, right? Or question it or whatever. But for me, I expand on that. And then once I have the pink from the white and the red, I might even mix it further. You see what I mean? But anyway, I'm kind of sidetracking here. But where I really was going with this stream is that I have to realize that my presence and my attention shouldn't be free. Ever. And that's hard, right? Because sometimes, think about this. If you want to meet a new person, you have to be willing to lose something. Think about it like this. You run a business, you have a business card, okay? Meeting a new person is like giving someone your business card. You're never going to see the business card again. And the chances of that person becoming a friend, which means that he's going to be returning you some kind of value in whatever form, the chances of that happening are so incredibly low. Same thing as in a business. The chances of that person becoming a customer or resulting in some sort of revenue for your company are low. The chances are low. It doesn't have to do with your business card. Well, maybe it kind of does, especially in this metaphor. But the point is that you have to make a bunch of business cards and accept them as a loss, okay? Business cards are basically, you have to view them as, people view them as investments for their businesses. But honestly, you have to look at them as like purely a cost with no return. If you would look at each and every business card individually, you're like, oh, this business card is worth nothing. So I'll just give it away, right? And I might see a return from it, I might not. But you have to assume that it's not of no value, but you have to assume, well, if you assume that everything is transactional, then you have to assume it has no value intrinsically because you're giving it away, right? Like you wouldn't give money away because you assume it has value for you. Anyways, it's kind of getting a little bit philosophical here, but stay with me. So the point what I was saying, if you want to meet new people, you have to be willing to risk something small, which is your time and attention. And I felt like the business card was a nice little metaphor of the same thing in business. And business is by default transactional because you're trying to make money, right? And since we're assuming here that even social things are also transactional, I feel like the business card is a perfect metaphor to use. So anyway, to get that point across, if you want to meet new people, you have to be willing to lose that business card. But I'm having some issues with losing business cards, okay? I don't want to lose any more fucking business cards. Because you see, who's that entrepreneur giving out business cards? Is it the old guy? Is it the fucking rich guy? Oh, please do business with me. Here's my business card. No. People come to them. Okay? It's always that young entrepreneur. Just starting out, just made a new business card. Oh, look at my business card. Please have it. Please have it. He just fucking made it. So now he wants to give it to everyone. Right? So what does that say about the kind of person that gives out business cards? It's the person that doesn't really know much about business yet. Has a lot of potential, but it's rather the student archetype, okay? Not the teacher. Lacking experience, just started out, wants to do business really badly with everyone else. In other words, his time and attention doesn't have that much value. The business of his doesn't have that much value yet. So assuming that that is true, then I shouldn't be giving out business cards. Because I don't give a fuck. And that's where I want to go with this. Because what I'm thinking inside is like, man, I do not want to depend upon external validation at all. And if you apply that in the social sense, what that means is that you have to be willing to be alone. Or with very few. And I think I am. Well, I know I am. But sometimes it's a little boring, isn't it? So anyway, these are just things on my mind, right? And I get here because I spend a lot of time, I talk to a lot of people. It's nice, hey, don't get me wrong, I enjoy it, etc. I really do. But also I get to a point where I'm like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, and fuck you too. I don't need any of you. Because see, it feels like the human mind is wired for connection. Well, it doesn't seem like I know that. Everyone knows that. We're wired to be, social creatures. I've said it before. Everyone knows this. But then, if you understand that there's so few benefit, especially in today's world, right? Where everything is so global, so universal, so non-committal. No one gives a fuck about each other. It's a little contradictive, right? Because you're like, wait, I thought we were supposed to be friendly with each other. I thought we were supposed to connect with each other. But wait, if there's no benefit, if I make all these connections, but then something happens to me, something real, and now no one gives a fuck of all these people that I was connecting with, suddenly the connection is gone. Because now things are serious. And I'm not saying I'm better, that I'm like any better, It's the same fault I make. I do the same thing, okay? So I'm not blaming the rest. But let me get to the point here. If that is the case, if when things get serious, all these connections are so very, very fleeting, very like, you know what I mean? They're very, well, you know what I mean. They're not really strong connections. They're good, they're nice, but they're not that strong, not that fundamentally strong. So again, if something were to happen or whatever, things got serious, and suddenly all within that context of that seriousness, all these connections are gone now, then what does that say? What does that say about our nature versus the reality? Sorry for the ear rape. Versus the reality of our current existence. I mean, not to get like all professor here and everything, but it means that we have to recalibrate. Because in our minds we're trying to be nice, and we're trying to be friendly, and we're trying to be friends. But if none of those friendships really result in any significant or substantial benefit in our lives, especially when things aren't as pleasant as they should be, as you hope they would be, then why? I'm not saying like why even try, or like why even be nice at all or be friendly. You can still be that, but it's hard to kind of match your expectancy of a certain friendship or relationship with the reality. You know what I mean? I know this is very, very deep, and no one's gonna fucking understand this, but it doesn't fucking matter because I don't really give a fuck. But the point I make is that if I talk to my best friend, I know that this guy has my back if I need him. So I'm very comfortable with making any investment, right? And it's never gonna disappoint me. That's the point. But if I talk to 200 people in a day, and I'm nice to them, and I make like investments, and I make time investment, I make an attention investment, and it's not because I'm like doing everything for them, but I'm being nice. I'm giving them my presence. Okay? So not to get like conflicted, like I'm doing people favors. No, it's not even about that. If you're giving your attention and presence to all these people, but there is no long-term benefit, then how do you relate to those people? You know? How can you make that a sustainable relation? You have to keep it very surface level first and foremost. Well, the fuck I say first of almost. Well, you have to keep it surface level, right? But also you have to not really care about them, which is weird because we're wired to care about each other, especially if we know each other, if we are friends, quote unquote, right? So these are some interesting topics that no one talks about. I suppose again, I suppose there's books about this and shit, but yeah, I don't care about books. Yeah, I guess that's it. So it's an open-ended question. The fuck does that even mean? It's a stream with an open ending. With a question, right? The question was, how do you relate to those people? Because like I said, I feel like naturally we're all very wired to I mean, and not to sound like a broken record here and go on and on about the same thing and say the same thing over and over, but yeah, it really does feel like we're wired to, naturally care about each other. And if you see someone every day, you're like familiar with them, and if you're familiar with them, you care about them. At least you're wired to. Think about someone you see every day. You might not even talk to them, but you learn that they die. You're like, well, what the fuck? Like, you care, right? Why do you care? Why do you care? Think about it. The only thing you knew about the person is how he looked, okay? It's the only thing. Did you know him? No. Well, what does know mean? But did you really know the person? No. You just knew the appearance. And still you're hit by the fact that he is dead. The only thing in between you and him being a stranger is that you've seen him. And suddenly you care about his death. Fuck. Sorry for the ear rape once again. But you understand what I mean, right? So we're wired to care about each other, even if we're slightest familiar. Even if there's no benefit in that relationship. So you have to think about all these things. You have to think about what all these relationships mean on every fucking level. If you really want to get to your truth, you have to think about these things, okay? And I'm just talking to myself here because I know that no one's like this. And that's totally fine, but this is still interesting, right? This is very out there stuff, okay? This is some fucking, I don't know. You be the judge. So anyway, like I said, open ending. Good stream, I feel like. Yeah, I don't do episodes anymore because I said it before, but I don't want to do the editing. And there's no edit, but I just have to make the fucking video. I have to make the clip, have to export it, have to make the thumbnail. That's already too much for me, okay? I got other stuff going on. I'm making money. And that's another thing where I'm like, man, fuck all these people. I could just be making money. And I know life's not about money and all that shit. But at least there is a long-term benefit for me. If I make money, I like spending money, bro. It's good. Okay? Call me crazy for that. But having money is nice. So anyway, why do I always have to talk about money? Well, it's a tool for freedom. And we love freedom. So let's end it on that